Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about Dynasty Rookie Sleepers, and with us to share the sleepers is none other than Nino Brown. He's making his first appearance with Front Office Pros, and you may have seen him around. He's the co-founder of the CFB Nation, the host of the Devi Degens, and video production for league winners and Dynasty Pros. Needless to say, he is a jack of all trades, and we are thankful to have him.
How we doing, guys? Appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on.
No problem. Appreciate you coming on.
Hike.
All right, Nino. So, you've probably known these guys since talking to you. You've known these guys for about 6, 7, 8 years. But who's your first rookie sleeper that we're gonna tell everyone about?
I'm gonna go with guy kind of fell in the draft a little bit, and it was more so because their teams went out and grabbed the guy early, and he fell to New Orleans in the 5th round. I'm gonna go with Spencer Rattler here. I know a lot of people may just look at the body of work, the stats body of work, and be like, turnovers, a lot of turnover-worthy plays. He's not really accurate downfield. It's kind of difficult to be accurate downfield in the SEC when you're getting sacked 40-plus times back-to-back seasons, and you got to throw the ball less than 2.6 seconds. I mean, he was top 5 in the shortest amount of time to throw the ball both years. All right, but this kid's got an arm. He can make those off all platform, right? He's mobile. He's grown up. We all, a lot of people know him from that Netflix series QB1, right? Where, these are kids' futures. And a lot of these content creators just want to chop up the negative and throw it out there and let you see it over and over and over again. But he's grown. I had a chance to interview him at the Senior Bowl when he said that's one of his best assets is being able to take, the negative things that he did and manifest them and move forward and grow from that. And I think he has. I mean, look at the leadership he has this year at South Carolina from week 6 last year until, the end of the season. He's just consistently gone up. His best statistical season. And we go look at, New Orleans. Carr's contract is literally nothing next year. They have an out. I believe it's for like $1 million, $1.3 million next year. So he hasn't been too good the last year or so. He was injured a lot last season, so there's concern. Spencer Rattler's he's got a chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder right now, right? Because he believes he should have been at least a 1st or 2nd round pick. Fall into the 5th. There's none of that guaranteed money. His contract is cut in 3rd. He knows that the door's open. You let a guy who's hungry get his foot in the door. Bad move, right? You've seen it with a guy like Tom Brady. You've seen it with a guy like, Kirk Cousins. You let their foot in the door and give them the opportunity to play and go. They got a lot of young talent on offense, right? Back-to-back years, they drafted offensive playmakers. If he has a good preseason and Carr doesn't look like he's improved a little bit or isn't 100% healthy, there's a chance that Rattler could get a stop somewhere along week 7 or 8. If they're not in contention, they're not looking good, ride it to see what you got. Because next year's class isn't that great. Outside of the top 3 guys that we know of right now, there's not as much depth. You know what I mean? You're probably not getting 6 guys in the 1st round. So there's a good chance Spencer Rattler could be QB1 for your team late in a rookie draft. This year alone, it could be Will Levis, right? Will Levis came in after they had enough of the Tannehill experience. They put Will Levis in. And you've seen what he had. Yes, there was bumps and bruises on that road, but you saw what he could put up fantasy-wise. In Dynasty Outlook, if you're looking on that Dynasty lens, I think Spencer Rattler is the guy you might want to zoom in on.
That's a really interesting comparison when it comes to Levis, because when you think about Rattler, the whole story, which you mentioned the Netflix series, but based on what we heard with the draft and kind of how far he slid, they said that the reason why teams overlooked him was because of that documentary. It looked very poorly on him, right. And so he slid. So now he goes there. I think my biggest concern is with Dennis Allen as the head coach. I think his days are numbered. I think he's on the hot seat. If they can't pull it together, he's gone. Mickey Loomis has been there for a long time, trusted advisor to the Benson family. So more than likely, maybe he sticks around. But if he doesn't, now you're talking a whole regime change. That's the thing that concerns me. When you have regime change, you get a new head coach and a new GM in. Anybody who was drafted before, don't matter. We're starting over. You weren't our guy. You got to prove it. If you don't prove it, see you later. So now this is where the Levis piece that you just said is very interesting. you saw, I mean, Rand Carthan's still there as a general manager, so the GM was still there, and obviously he had a lot of faith in him. And maybe he was the one pushing it, not necessarily Mike Vrabel. But now you got Callahan coming in. But look what they've done to support Will Levis. They brought in Pollard. They brought in Ridley, right? They're bringing all these different, weapons, drafting an offensive lineman. So it's like that offense is honestly going to look night and day from what it's been. And I think it's a decent support system that Levis could actually have a good shake at it. So that's going to be, I think it could happen. And this is why we're talking sleepers, because it could, but I think there are got to be a couple things that go right to make it so that Rattler gets that shot. But he definitely could have the shot. I don't think that Carr has that job on lockdown by any means.
Now, the point you made about, being a new regime and he could get fired, I think that adds a little bit to my point. Wait, they could throw him in the fire early. All right, coach is gone. Yeah. Let's see what we got. And whether it be the interim coach or the GM, the guys upstairs looking and say, okay, it wasn't our guy, but let's see what he's got here. And if he's I'm telling you, if he's somewhat decent for what they're looking at, knowing where they're going to pick, if they mess around and win 7 games, and he's part of the reason why they won 4 of the 7, they're not going to be in a prime spot to go up the top of the board and get a guy that's going to be a day one starter. And even if they do get a guy, is he ready to go day one to start? So Spencer Rattler could give you a year and a half of better production than Desmond Ridder. But
for sure.
But could give you an audition for another team. Because if Josh Dobbs can go from team to team and start, right? And you're plugging this guy in on a weekly basis, especially in Superflex Dynasty leagues, you were playing Josh Dobbs. I'm telling you, Spencer Rattler will give you better production than Josh Dobbs will. He'd probably be around the same production year one as Will Levis was. They got, dudes on the outside. They got a backfield that's speedy, right? They got a decent defense. If Carr can't put it together and figure it out this year, I mean, contract-wise, the writing's on the wall already.
Yeah, the crazy thing to me was the fact that, that documentary, like you mentioned, Steve, was impacting his draft stock. I mean, it happened a while ago. Dude was a teenager. He's, like you mentioned, he's grown up. He's played college and he's had to go through, adversity. And this guy was considered Heisman level at one point, and then he gets replaced, with Caleb Williams, and he moves on to South Carolina. And then he drops in the draft. I mean, I think he's got the talent, and I think he's an interesting person. And if he's going to slip in drafts, I'll definitely be willing to take him.
I got a question for you guys. How many guys do you know at quarterback in college football that gets kind of forced to transfer out that's still at 70% completion rate? The year that Caleb took over his job and he went, to South Carolina, he was still above 70% completion. Yes, he missed a couple of deep throws bad in back-to-back games, and they knew what they had behind him. But still, at 70%, man, it wasn't like he was terrible. It wasn't 35%. He couldn't, hit his receivers or throw his receivers into a possibility of getting killed. He just something up here went off, and they had a guy behind him, and he moved on, but he didn't go away. He moved on, but he didn't move away. He's still there, and he still kept knocking at the door. And in the SEC, in a pro-style offense.
Yeah.
I would love to see if he is given the chance. I would love to see Rattler and Caleb Williams play, because that would be the ultimate, vengeance, kind of retribution for, everything that transpired for Rattler. That's got to be a primetime game if that comes to happen. They got to flex that.
I love it.
It'd be very interesting.
Are you enjoying this episode? Well, if you are, go ahead and show some support to our channel by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. We've got some great content going on throughout the offseason, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, Joe, who do you got as your first Dynasty rookie sleeper?
Yeah, my first Dynasty sleeper, Steve, I'm going to go with running back Kamani Vidal. And it's a guy that I know you and I keep an eye on, pre-draft. We had him in our rookie running back rankings there. And then he gets a prime spot with the LA Chargers. I really thought that they were going to end up getting Blake Corum in that 3rd round, especially once, Goodell's going up there and saying, Michigan man. And, turned out to be the linebacker Junior Colson instead. But they've got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. We've seen how that show plays out in Baltimore already. I don't trust Dobbins to stay healthy. Gus Edwards is, just a power back. Short yardage, goal line. He's not going to catch passes out of the backfield. And that's something that Kamani Vidal is able to do. Not only can he catch the ball, but he's, built well, 5'7", 213 pounds. He's a power runner. He had 25 touchdowns over his final 2 college seasons as well. So he's a guy, he ran a 4.46 40 as well. He's a guy that I like, and I really like his spot, and I think he's in a prime opportunity to get some opportunities here right away as a rookie.
You got to remember Austin Eckler, his dominance over however many years that he was in LA. I don't know off the top of my head, but he was undrafted. So, I mean, when you see a guy like Vidal go down to the 6th round, I think people get a little nervous, because it's like, okay, well, how many successful players are really getting drafted late? We know Pacheco was drafted real late. He did very well, but he was a 7th round pick. So I think that he has the opportunities knocking for him. Like you said, Dobbins can't stay healthy, although he says that he's going to be healthy from here on out. That's what Dobbins says.
We've heard that before.
Yeah.
JK.
Yeah, right.
But that was a little dad joke there. But anyways, and then Gus Edwards too, right? Gus Edwards is a guy, power back, like you said, Joe. Opportunity's not going to. I like the pick. If you didn't pick him, I was going to pick him, Joe. I think he's got some upside.
Any concern about Isaiah Spiller? I'm not a Spiller guy. I always said A-Chain was better at A&M, but is there any concern? Like I said, because they've been trying to draft that guy to be the predecessor to Eckler for 5-6 years now, and whether it was Joshua Jackson, right? And they had a few guys. Is there a chance Spiller finally works his way in the door?
It's a great question. I think honestly he's on the bubble to be on the roster. I mean,
Right.
If they were considering him, Jim Harbaugh and Horace, they would have had to review this roster before going in there. Now, he was a 6th round pick.
Right.
So it's not like it was a huge investment of draft capital. So you could be onto something where maybe they see something in Isaiah Spiller. He hasn't really been given a good shake at it.
No.
So that is kind of an under the radar pick there. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I've never really been much of a Spiller guy, but I haven't seen anything, on tape that would scare me or in games so far. But to your point, Steve, he hasn't had a lot of opportunities. Harbaugh's coming right in and upgrading the offensive line as well. So maybe that helps. But I think, Spiller would really have to show something, in training camp in those battles to prove to Jim Harbaugh that, he'd be worthy of a roster spot or even a spot higher than Kamani Vidal, just because Harbaugh's going in there with the new GM and they're picking Vidal. I know it was the 6th round, but they still took him, so they have to like him somewhat.
Yeah, his pass pro skills will keep him on the field, alone. That's something I think he beats Isaiah Spiller in right off the rip, is just being able to protect the quarterback on passing down.
So my first dynasty rookie sleep, I'm going to stick with the running backs here and go with Isaac Guerendo, guy who buzzed after the combine based on his 40-yard time. And, Kyle Shanahan agrees, which, it's a good thing for him. He came out and said that he loved his speed and that they need that type of speed in that running back room. Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, right? These guys are free agents next season. CMC is going to be 29 years old with the possible that could the Niners move off him. We know what running backs are capable of in this Shanahan offense. They've done phenomenal. So to me, is he a guy who's going to impact right away? No, I don't think so. But this is dynasty, right? We're looking in the future. I think this is a guy, if CMC is for whatever reason, he gets hurt, because, he was really good last year. He stayed healthy. But in years prior, he was dealing with some durability issues, right? You've got a guy in Guerendo who, from a profile standpoint, not a lot of tread on the tires, 6 foot, 225. I think this is a guy, late round flyer. I think he's worth it. Now, who knows? Probably knowing the Niners are going to draft another running back in the 3rd or 4th round like they used to do. Hopefully this isn't a guy like Trey Sermon. He's not Trey Sermon build-wise, but people were all like, oh, Trey Sermon, and then, we know what happened to him. So, we got to be careful, I guess. So I'm not saying, go crazy for this guy, but he's definitely worth late round flyer in my view.
So with Guerendo here, I honestly would rather have his counterpart in Jawad Jordan. I think
interesting.
I feel like, yes, Guerendo was known for, the speed, and that's when you heard about him, was when the speed came up. But there was nothing all year that you really heard about Guerendo, where Jawad Jordan was that guy in between the hashes that could take it and also be that home run hitter. And he's kind of physical. He has that stiff arm to him as well. I do like Guerendo, but I think he might be more of that possible Deebo Samuel replacement, or kind of working him in to eat some of that load, put him in the slot, be that wide back. They're paying CMC too much money. He's not going anywhere until the numbers decline or an injury happens. I mean, he's been the best back for 3 straight years. No decline of only positive, going up and up and up in his usage and what he's producing. So I don't know. You mentioned Trey Sermon, and another guy they drafted that didn't fit that mold was TDP, right? Davis Price. They want speedy slasher type backs, which CMC is, but he's also the muscle hamster combined with it. So, like, they got the best of both worlds with him. I do think Garendo will have, manufactured targets or touches in that offense. But I think he could be a flex guy. I don't know if he's a dynasty back for them, down the hall.
Steve, are you nervous any ways at all about Cody Schrader, guy who they also have on that roster? Nino would know it, Senior Bowl. I feel like people were really talking about around the Senior Bowl time and liked what he did in the Senior Bowl as well.
I always think it's a good sign when you see an NFL team trade up for a guy, because they felt like we cannot miss on this guy and we need to have him. That's what, I mean, I'm not in the room, but that's what that's telling me. If you're going to trade up, you're giving up capital because you want this guy. That tells me there's something about that. You disagree, Nino. I'll take it.
I would have agreed up until this year. And the reason why I say that is because the 5th, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th round, 7th round, those picks had 5, 6, and 7. They had value. They were depth pieces, possible guys you could plug and play. The 5th, 6th, and 7th round now is watered down because NIL. Guy can go back for another year and make more money than he would as a rookie in the NFL, right? So now I'm willing to trade up out of the 6th and 5th round to get a guy that I would normally get in the 6th round, because outside of that, I don't really have any more need for anything. So I'm going to get the best guy available. I'll take my 5th and 6th and put it together for a late 4th or an early 5th.
That's a good point. I mean, the NIL has definitely changed things. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but could certainly be those. And plus, they get so many comp picks anyways. The 49ers,
right?
So.
Yeah.
All right. So Nino, who do you have for your second sleeper?
All right, my second sleeper, and I think he's going to be a day one starter for them. I'm going to go with Southeast Missouri State wide receiver Ryan Flournoy. This kid just jumped off the field to me at the Senior Bowl. Like, we're going to do interviews. This kid's still there trying to catch balls, going through drills with whatever quarterback would throw him the ball. I mean, this kid is physical, right? You talk about Malachi Corley. I mean, he may not be as physical as Corley, but he will run through you, run around you, whatever he has to do to get the ball. He has a good catch radius. He's great hands. And this is a guy that goes out, and I say he's a hands catcher. He goes attacks the ball. A lot of these guys wait for it, right? Had the chance to catch it with their body and cradle it. Now, my man's out there grabbing it before it even comes close to his body. Like I said, contested catch hound. Now, look at Jalen Tolbert's tried for 2 years to get on the field. But 39 targets in 2 years, man. I know out of South Alabama, I had high hopes for him, but I just don't know if he's going to be that guy to play outside on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb. Gallup's gone, right? So it's going to be a battle in camp between Jalen Tolbert and my guy Ryan Flournoy. And I'm willing to bet and plant my flag that Flournoy is going to beat this kid out who couldn't figure it out in the last 2 seasons when the opportunity was there. I mean, they were going out and getting veterans and guys off the shelf just to fill in, because he couldn't catch on to the system. Cooks is a veteran, right? And his contract could be, expiring soon. CeeDee's going to get the bag no matter what he does. This kid's going to play on the other side of it. And I think this kid's going to be able to draw coverage away from CeeDee. That's only going to help CeeDee. And when CeeDee's happy, Ryan Flournoy will be happy, right? This is a guy that Dak will feel comfortable with, early, knowing that he's just a grinder. Will go across the middle, has no problem in that short intermediate game, right? Go get Ryan Flournoy. A lot of people, he's a 5th round pick. It may not be a guy that's got a lot of capital. Right? He doesn't. But he landed in a spot that's got prime, opportunity for him because Gallup's gone now. And once he left and they got this guy, I said, man, plug and play, baby. Plug and play.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of giving the rundown for Flournoy. He's not a guy, honestly, that I was sleeping on him. He's not a guy that I was really all that familiar with. I don't know how familiar you are with him, Joe, but I think when it comes down to it, for me, the opportunity is there. Like you said, Gallup is no longer there unless they bring in a veteran, which is possible. I mean, getting around that June 1st time frame, there's a lot of older receivers that are still out there that could be interesting. But if they don't, I've been very underwhelmed by the Cowboys offseason altogether. I don't know what Jerry Jones' definition of all in is, but it's very, very funny to me what that definition is, because we're bringing Ezekiel Elliott back, hoping he's 3 years ago Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, Dak's gonna have to be thrown all over the yard. I mean,
Najee Harris, baby, watch out.
You think he gets traded there? I heard a rumor of that.
Interested in it, and then that would be the ultimate Jerry Jones swoop it out and put it on the table move, right? Oh, I didn't go get my running back, but I got the only running back to have 1,000 yards in 3 straight years. In the last 3 years, outside of CMC, he's the only other back to do it 3 years in a row.
If they did that, that would be wild. I would say that is pretty interesting. Maybe after June 1st, they would consider that. I don't know.
It would definitely be the Steelers to do that, though. We've seen them just drive guys into the ground. They didn't take the 5th-year option already. They drive guys into the ground, and they let them either walk in free agency or make sense for them to try to trade them and get something for them.
Hey, Flo and I, real quick. I mean, he had 800 yards, right? 825 yards last year. 440 came, after contact. The dude had he was a chain mover. He had 36 or more first downs. He had 35 missed tackles forced, right? And he had an ADOT almost 12. Like, this guy can line up all over. He played 83% out wide and 17% in the slot. You can move him around. This is a guy that's going to be a weapon for the Cowboys, and he's good. He just happened to be the product of people scout the helmet and not the player.
Now, do you think that, because everybody, it seems like when it comes to a draft class, right, a previous draft class, the one before, they want to, I don't know. It's like they're talking about the Puka Nacua. Who's the next Puka Nacua, right? Do you think he could get to the level of like a Puka Nacua where he's like a top of the top guy, or do you think he just could be like a solid wide receiver 2-3 type of deal?
There's a very good chance that he has that Puka Nacua opportunity. I mean, look, you got your alpha on the outside, but see, the thing is with Puka Nacua that he had the talent. But you want to talk about the supreme opportunity. Your alpha dog went down, and you played that style of role, and you could play in the slot as well and outside. You got all the targets, bro, because that wide receiver room was like a middle school class. They had nothing. It was bare bones.
That's true.
So, I mean, I don't know in that case. If CeeDee Lamb went down, oh, boy, I'm running to Caesar's Palace, and I'm putting a bet on my boy going for 1,010. Easy. Because, I mean, who else is getting – Cooks can't – I don't think Cooks could handle the load.
No.
At this point in his career, 32 years old. I just don't think he could. I'm telling you, Flournoy, he brings it. He's got that grinder mentality. Whatever is going to happen, Dak's going to have a year. Whether he's going to get his money or he's going on another team, he's not going to be able to do that playing mediocre patty cake football. He's going to have to go out there and ball. Brian Flournoy is going to be that shiny new toy that he has.
Yeah, very interesting. Steve, I was not this guy wasn't really on my radar, honestly. You sent over the list of who Nino had and went and looked him up. And got to say, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I was picking guys for the Cowboys to, go with pre-draft and different wide receivers. They didn't go with any of them. And they end up taking Flournoy here. And like you said, that the opportunity is definitely there. And, I think definitely it's going to be worth taking in your drafts and be fantasy relevant.
All right, Joe, who is your second Dynasty rookie sleeper?
Yeah, so I'm going to stick with the running back position, and I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy with the New York Giants. And this guy was a former wide receiver, converted into a running back. Currently, right now, the main guy in the New York Giants, Steve, and I know you're not very high on this guy. Devin Singletary's the guy right there, but he's never been really a guy to catch the ball out of the backfield. I am higher on Singletary than you are, Steve, but I think Tyrone Tracy either way is going to have the opportunities to get on the field, especially, in the passing game, being with that former wide receiver. Could he end up, having a role like an Antonio Gibson type of player? I know, he's been disappointing with Washington. They didn't really use him that well, but I think he definitely will. Tracy will be interesting. It just depends on, how much faith do you have in Brian Daboll, this New York Giants offense, with Daniel Jones at quarterback. That's the one caveat, but I think he's going to have the opportunities for snaps and opportunities to get you his fantasy points right in his rookie season.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Singletary, for me, I think he's just an average guy. I think that's the bottom line. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think he's a great guy to have. I just don't think I mean, from Saquon to him, that to me is a significant drop. So I think that, I mean, without a question, right? So I think with Tyrone Tracy coming in, I'm with you. You liked him more than I did. I had a little more concerns related to him, and I just, especially with his age. I mean, people, and it's a hyper focus when it comes to dynasty. People want to hyper focus on age. I think people should cool off a little bit on that. I think age is important, but I think almost you should look at it in contract terms. And we've talked about this before. When it comes to the running back position, most guys get one contract. It doesn't matter what your age is.
Thank you.
Right. So it's like, don't worry so much about the age. Your premium guys like Christian McCaffrey, sure, you saw him; he's gotten 2 contracts. But I think people get fixated on that. So he's gonna get one contract, and more than likely, guys like Marshawn Lloyd are gonna get 1 contract. So it's like, why are we so concerned about it?
I love that you mentioned Marshawn Lloyd, because I've been on the X. You can go look at it, saying that this guy, Tracy, I have over Lloyd. I had him at 8 in my running back class. Okay.
Wow.
Yes. You're talking about a dude who really has no threat on his size. I got asked his sophomore year to play running back, and he said, nah, I'm good. Right. His coach at that time transferred to Purdue. Right. First year in the box. Coach says to him, you going to make that conversion? Nah, dude, I don't want to do it. Well, the second year he made the conversion. Averaged 8 yards of whack, dude, while splitting time with Devin Markaby. 800 yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns. This dude's got 30-plus receptions. He's had 20-plus receptions almost every single season he's been in college. He can pass pro, right? He can run between tackles. He can run outside. I'm sorry. Devin Singletary is a jag, bro. He's just another guy. That's all he is. And I would be more concerned about Eric Gray than I would be about Devin Singletary. He's just a veteran leadership in the room, because every team needs one. Right? He might not even make camp, to be honest with you, because his money probably doesn't even affect the cap. It's that minute. But you want to worry about a guy who's got, age? Well, then you got the young kid you drafted last year. You put them together and you figure out what you're going to do on that offense. You find your identity on the ground game for a year. And, hey, maybe the kid goes for 800,000 yards. But I'm going to go down on tape right here on your show and say that Tracy has a better year than Damian Pierce did his rookie year. And you can book that.
Oh, I like predictions. You're putting your money where your mouth is. I think when it comes down to it, you and I looks like we're on the same page about this. I understand Daboll and Shane had that familiarity with Singletary. That doesn't necessarily mean just because of that he's then going to have the keys of the kingdom. He's going to have to prove it. I don't know if he'll get caught, but it could very well happen. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd be surprised if he gets caught, just because, I mean, we saw him do pretty well with the Texans last year. They're running. I know they got Tracy Gray, but their running back room isn't the strongest. I mean, with the rate that the running backs get hurt, wouldn't hurt to have Singletary on your roster.
He's never got over 850 yards ever, right? And last year was his most attempts. He had 216. How many yards did he have? What, 898? He almost made that. But he's like allergic to the end zone, dude. I feel like the end zone's his kryptonite. Ooh, I think the most touchdowns he's ever had is 7. One time, 2, 3, 4. That's terrible.
That's not good. That's definitely not good.
That's not good.
So my final Dynasty rookie sleeper is going to be a guy who I was actually surprised that he didn't get drafted sooner. And that's wide receiver Malik Washington, 5'8", 191. I think the primary reason why he wasn't drafted earlier was because of his size. His size, not like you could change that. You can't take some growth hormone and all of a sudden become 6'2" or something. But he's got 4.47 40-yard dash time. I think he just fit the right system with Miami. They needed another guy. Now they did bring in Odell Beckham. So honestly, this is a great time to talk about him because people are going to say, "Oh, OBJ, he's a name." So people are going to be like, "Oh, that Malik Washington, he's not going to stiff field," and he might not. He very much might not because of this OBJ signing. But to me, OBJ can't stay healthy regardless. Even Waddle is having a hard time staying healthy. I think Malik Washington brings them a whole different aspect to this offense. They need a third guy. Really, it's mainly just been Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They don't really utilize the tight end position. They haven't really had a third or fourth receiver they can really rely upon. So now you're bringing a guy who Mike McDaniel came out and was basically telling Chris Greer, the general manager, look, go get this guy for multiple rounds. To me, I know he was in the 6th round. And people will say that he was kind of a late bloomer because obviously when he transferred to Virginia from Northwestern, he had 111 catches for 1,384 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's when he really came on the scene. But I think his profile is pretty exciting. And so for a guy who's a 6th-round pick, I think he may be overlooked. And I'm willing to, as you've said, plant my flag on Malik Washington in hopes that he gets that opportunity in the future.
Buddy, you can put cement around that flag, my man. And that's how confident I am in it, okay? Because that's your Tyreek Hill replacement in 2 seasons. Because Tyreek Hill's already said, I want to be 31, 32 years old, and I'm done with football. I have 27 kids that I have to go take care of, and I don't have time for this no more. Speed. If Daniels is the coach, McDaniels is the coach of that team, he will be the replacement for Tyreek Hill. He has the speed. He has the hands. It may not be as muscular, but he has that build, and he can fill in once he gets to an NFL team and been in that weight room for a year or two. This kid has everything you want. I mean, he's quarterback proof. At Virginia, they had Tony Muskett. Exactly. And a freshman at Caldonado who had no experience, and this dude still got over 100 receptions for 1,000 yards, right? Yeah, he only had 9 touchdowns, but they had trouble finding the end zone. He happened to get it in bigger plays. This kid's got it. Mind you, the kid on the other side of him, Malik Fields, garnered another 100 targets and 80 receptions, and Washington still ate. There was only 3 dudes in the whole college football that had 100 receptions. He was one of them. He was the best one, okay? There's a reason for that. This kid, you're worried about his size, but nobody was worried about Tank Dell's size, right? And we've seen what Tank Dell could do. Yeah, he got injured. Have you seen what he's doing now? It's like the injury didn't happen. Why are we concerned about it? Stop putting these 160-pound guys over the middle to get eaten up by a 240-pound linebacker, and we won't have this problem. These guys can play in the NFL. We've seen it, right? And they've had success. Malik Washington is going to be another guy that's going to have success. And if you don't draft him because he was a 5th, 6th-round pick and he came out of Virginia, well, I'm sorry. That's mud on your face, my friend.
Yeah, imagine how the people would feel if they didn't take Puka Nacua last year because he was drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, Odell Beckham has no concern. I mean, he has 40 receptions in 2 seasons. Like, I'm not worried about that guy at all. Again, another guy they brought in for veteran leadership. Teach these guys how to go, right? Teach these guys how to get better at route running. Like Odell can run routes. He's just not as fast as what he was when he came to the NFL. So he can teach guys. He could be a mentor to these dudes for what? $3 million? That's couch cushion change to the Dolphins.
Yeah, but for as far as Malik Washington goes, Dave, I like this pick for you. And, really the only thing for his future is whether or not Mike McDaniel's going to stay as the coach. But as long as, like Nino said, as long as McDaniel's there and that system is there, I mean, he's a perfect fit. And, Tyreek Hill, you just saw, wants to retire a Dolphin. The end is near, and, he definitely looks like that Tyreek Hill replacement.
Oh, if McDaniels ultimately doesn't, let's say they clean house and Greer and McDaniels are done after the year, in my view, his value just craters. Washington's does. Because to me, I believe in the player, but I just, like you were saying, I just think it's a fantastic fit. Him partnering with McDaniel, being able to bring the most out of them to kind of, like you said, become that like that replacement for Tyreek Hill. Like it's there. You see it. Mm-hmm. But then you bring in a guy like, who knows? Maybe they bring in a guy like Tony Sperano in there. Watch out. He's there.
I mean, they would have to win 7 games, right, for him to get fired. As long as he's in the 10, 9, 10, 11 win realm, he's Gucci. McDaniels is going to put on the next amber-colored shades and walk around in his loafers and crack jokes about how fast his team is without any concern. I mean, they're happy being at 10 wins and not winning the ship as long as they're relevant in the playoffs.
Well, they better get used to that, especially as long as Tua is their quarterback, or they better hope that they have some home wins because that guy cannot play at all in cold weather.
He also can only throw to one side of the field, so...
Hopefully, as a Bills fan, I hope he gets paid $250 million or whatever it's going to be. And I could just sit. You're a Patriots fan too. You could sit back and just, enjoy.
Who would you rather have, Dak or Tua?
In the NFL or
right now
fantasy?
On your team?
Dak.
I'll take Dak. You disagree?
Were you expecting a different answer?
No, I just think if you're looking at the system, I would take Tua in the system. I just think the system fits Tua's incapabilities where you can't make Dak run. He just won't do it no more. And that's a problem. I truly feel his immobile is a problem. Ever since his ankle went sideways into the stanky leg, he's never been the same when it comes to that. He's afraid to run, and you see him take unnecessary sacks because of it and miss guys. He'll skip a read because he feels the pressure and he won't move out of the pocket as well as he used to.
So that does it for our Dynasty Rookie Sleepers. Nino, thanks so much for joining the show today. Where can others find your great work?
You can find me over at the CFB Nation, the league winners, Debbie Degens, and on the X, __ Nino Brown __. Hit me up. I'm always willing to talk, fantasy, C2C, college, whatever you want.
Absolutely. Well, go make sure to follow Nino if you don't know already. And he's a great resource. He knows players from even talking middle school, high school. He's got it running in the pipeline. So if you like Dynasty, you're thinking about even next year's draft. I know me and Joe will be reaching out to say who should we be looking at in 2025. He's your man. So, but thank you so much for watching, and until next time.